Here we are on Seattle's Lake Union, one of the only places in the world where you can live minutes from downtown on a home that floats atop of 500 acres of fresh water. If you're looking for a place to live in Seattle, why settle for just another condo or penthouse? Why live in a boring land house? You should seriously consider the floating home lifestyle. If you're curious about it, in this video, we're gonna go see the largest floating home in Westlake, one of the largest floating homes on the lake. And what makes it so cool? Well, it's got a great rooftop deck with stunning views, plus it has an underwater basement. You gotta see it to believe it. Let's go check it out. While we boat over to this home on Westlake, let's talk about floating homes. So there's only 500 of them on the lake. They're not allowing any more, and it's got an amazing lifestyle. If you're an early riser, you can get out on the water before anyone else, go for a paddle, kayak, row. Just an amazing way to see the water with the city as your backdrop. In the afternoons in the summer, the water is in the low to mid 70s. Love swimming with the kids. Great way to cool off with Seattle summers getting a little bit longer and a little bit hotter. And then in the evenings, hop on a boat like this. We've got so many different restaurants on the lake. Our kids, they love going to the gas station, not because we need gas, but because they have a ton of candy over there. So that's how we bribe them to get on the boat. If you're wondering where all the places you can boat to on the lake, I've put together a great lake guide. You scan this QR code, you get all my tips and tricks to living on Lake Union and on Lake Washington. If you're new to the channel, I'm Matt Goyer. I lead a team of real estate agents here in Seattle. My family has been living on a floating home for over 10 years now. We've lived on a bunch of different floating homes. One we did a massive remodel on, and then it caught on fire, and we had to remodel it again. Another, we built a floating home totally from scratch, had it built in Ballard, and then floated it over here to Lake Union. So we've been living this lifestyle for a while, and it is amazing, even on a kind of windy, cloudy day like today. Floating homes have been floating here on Lake Union for well over 100 years. They got their start as workforce housing. Blue-collar workers working in the logging industry who needed a place to live just built some. And at one point, there was well over 1,000 or a couple thousand of these just floating on the lake, unregulated. It was a total literal shit show. Their sewage went directly into the lake. But back in the 70s, really cleaned up, became a much more established way of living. There's still a lot of those old quirky floating homes on the lake. But then you also have a bunch of these newer, more modern homes. That's what we're gonna check out here in a second. We're coming up on the dock we're looking for, the 2466 Westlake dock. Just to the south of this dock is the dock with the most famous floating home in all of Seattle, or what many people mistakenly refer to as a houseboat, and that's the Sleepless in Seattle houseboat, made famous by the movie with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. Our family rewatched this the other day. It was a real laugh watching what life was like back then. But he was an architect, just moved to Seattle, and lived the floating home lifestyle that you're gonna see in just a second. So the Sleepless in Seattle home, it sold back in 2014 for $2 million. The outside looks the same as in the movie, but once this person bought it, they hired NB Design, our favorite interior design firm here in the city, who completely remodeled the inside, really modernized it. It now looks amazing. But enough about Sleepless in Seattle. Let's go check out Slip 11. All right, here we are, Slip 11 on the 2466 dock. One of the many cool things about Slip 11 here is the boat slip situation. So we've got two 40-foot boat slips here. So if you're into boating, this is the perfect home for that. You could have a little boat like this for going to, well, we used to go to Starbucks until it closed, going to Ivers and all the restaurants. And then on the other side, you can have a bigger boat. And then you got your second 40-foot boat slip right here. All right, so this is a big home. This is over 2,400 square feet. Thanks to this underwater basement we're gonna see in a little bit, but that's spread out over 3 levels. So what I love about this floating home is you walk into this great big living space that feels really well connected with the water. You got this living room here where you can sit. You get to look down the channel. You got the Sleepless in Seattle home right there. You get to watch the boats going by, the seaplanes taking off. And usually there's some wildlife, but I don't see any ducks around right now, but usually there's a lot of ducks hanging out here. The sellers added this Danish gas stove, puts out a lot of heat in the winter months, which is really nice to take the chill off. But let's check out outside here, which we walked by a minute ago. Out here, you got this great wraparound deck. Lots of space here for a seating area, sit, have your morning coffee, watch life go by on Lake Union. And then in the afternoons when it warms up, you got this ladder here, you got some area, you can go swimming. As I said, it's in the mid 70s. Come the summer months, and it hits 70 early and early these days. Global warming. You can also open these both up, really bring the outdoors in, though it is abnormally windy right now. Dining area over here, we've just got 4 chairs here in terms of staging, but certainly you could have 6, and you have the space. You could certainly fit an 8-person dining room table in this home. And then on the north side of the house, you have this big kitchen. So the family that designed this home in 2009, she was a cooking instructor at the Blue Ribbon Cooking School, did a ton of cooking, so built this kitchen obviously for that. The nice thing about this home is it's one of the few homes on this dock that has gas. So it has a gas connection, so you can cook with gas if that's your thing. Not all floating homes or floating home docks have gas, so a little bit of a luxury here. And that 2 powers that Danish gas stove over there. Got a little sitting area here, work on your laptop, get some stuff done. Just off the kitchen, we have this bathroom. It's got some quirky tile with fish on it. I think I read that came from Mexico. Custom handmade tile kind of a thing. And then it's got some art here of a heron. There's lots of herons on the lake. We actually saw one right as we were leaving our place. They're really fun to watch. They stand there super still for a really long time, and then they strike and get their dinner. We got the basement down here. We'll check that out in a second. First, let's go upstairs. Yeah, up here on the second level, we got 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. Let's start with a smaller bedroom. So you got the smaller bedroom here, actually, but it's not that small. Looking out to the north, you have a nice view of some docks here with lots of boats and some really nice expensive boats. So there's always things to see if you're living on the water. Over here, we got a little desk nook. This is how we staged it. That's how the seller actually used it. It's a great spot to sit and get some work done while watching life go by on the lake. Got the primary suite over here. Very generously sized seating area, gas fireplace, sit here, read a book, enjoy the view. Air conditioning for the summer months though. And then you got the bed over here and a nice big closet that wraps around over there. But probably the best part of this primary suite is gonna be, you got this balcony, you got a great view of the lake, you see the high rises downtown, watch life go by, but then also tucked around the corner here, you got a hot tub. So you just imagine hopping into that, glass of wine late at night. It'd be a really nice spot to just chill out and relax. If you don't want to relax in the hot tub outside, don't worry. You've got an indoor jetted tub with a view straight down the channel. So certainly that's pretty awesome. And then you've got this sauna. Saunas are all the rage again. And the cool thing about living on a floating home is the lake is really cold for half the year. So if you want to go do a cold plunge in 40-degree water, come back up here, have a nice hot sauna. So the rest of the bathrooms, you got the tub there, got a full shower here. It's got some funky tile from Mexico that those original builders picked out. And then you've got a washer dryer full size hiding back here in a little laundry room closet situation. Good sized primary bathroom for a floating home. You're at the top of my list of my favorite things about this floating home is the rooftop deck. Let's go check it out and see what the view's like. This floating home has an amazing rooftop view. You got Gasworks over there, East Lake, our floating home's over there. And then you got the high rises downtown that just light up at night. The other thing you're gonna have a great view of from up here is gonna be the 4th of July fireworks. So they anchor a barge in the middle of the lake and they set off fireworks at 10:15 on the 4th of July every year. The lake is just packed with boats. And actually it was the 4th of July that got us into floating homes. So my friend Andre used to rent this floating home over here that we just docked beside. And we would go to his 4th of July parties that were absolutely epic. And after you go to a couple of those, you're like, wait, why am I not living on the lake? It's such a fun party lifestyle. And when you're young and in your 30s, it just seemed like it made a lot of sense. And that was our gateway drug, was the 4th of July. So this rooftop deck is a decent size. You got this fire table here. It's gonna keep the chill off once the sun goes down here in the summer. You got some speakers here to get your party on. Tons of space to have an outdoor sofa and more to really soak up and enjoy this view. What are the downsides to owning a floating home? Well, with a view like this, the rooftop deck, the swimming situation, your friends are gonna wanna come over all the time, so be prepared for that. I don't know if that's a downside or upside. But one of the downsides is definitely like the parking. So, you don't typically have a garage when you have a floating home. In this case here on Westlake, you're parking on the street, off-street parking. But the off-street parking for this dock is actually phenomenal. There's tons of parking, always readily available. It's a lot better than most of the floating homes over in Eastlake. So that's a good situation here. You don't have the garage, so you don't have a ton of storage. This dock does have some storage options for your bikes and stuff like that. And there's an outdoor closet to keep your skis and golf clubs. But yeah, there's a little less storage than if you lived on land. Okay, let's go check out this basement. All right, we are now underwater in this basement. So not many floating homes have a basement. The ones that were built more recently with concrete floats, they're the ones more likely to have some sort of underwater basement like this one. This one is amazing because it's got like 9-foot ceilings, lots of space down here. And this is really different than most floating homes. So most floating homes, they sit on log floats. This is how they built floating homes back 100 years ago when it was workforce housing. But the newer ones that are being built, they're being built on concrete boxes. And some of those have underwater basements. This basement is a great size. You got plenty of room here, have a big sectional, big TV. You got 7.1 surround system built into the ceiling. And then you've got some other rooms. You could set up an office down here. You could do some yoga, or you could put your exercise bikes down here. And then here you could have a bedroom, or that could be a bedroom, vice versa. The nice thing about this room is that it has a secondary means of getting outside. So there's a ladder here that goes up to the deck, right actually by where we docked the boat when we came in. Other nice thing about having an underwater basement in your floating home is it gives you a lot of extra storage. Storage is at a premium on these floating homes. This one, you got a generously sized utility room. Thankfully, the utilities don't take up much space, leaving you with a lot of space for your whatever it is, gear, Christmas decorations, Halloween decorations, all that good stuff. So what does it cost to buy one of these floating homes? Well, the good news is it's cheaper than buying a waterfront home on Lake Washington or on Lake Sammamish. The bad news is it is more expensive than buying a land home or a condo on a per square foot basis. So for a starter floating home, you can find a couple under $1 million, but most of them are going to price higher than $1 million. And at the upper end for a floating home that's in a prime location and a dock, it's really big, really nicely designed. Well, those are even going for around $6 million. This one, we're priced right in the middle of that range, and we hit the market at $2.75 million. Now, if you're thinking of taking the plunge into the floating home lifestyle, you absolutely need to connect with a real estate agent who understands floating homes. I've been living on one for over 10 years now. I've lived in 5 different floating homes. I've remodeled them. We built one from scratch. Kind of seen it all over the years. And I would love to help you navigate what your different options look like, help you figure out which is the best neighborhood for you. There's 4 or 5 different floating home neighborhoods. Once you narrow in on a neighborhood, then figuring out what's going to be the right dock, what's the right home. Once you find the home, really doing your due diligence on it. Buying a floating home is not like buying a land home. We have to hire scuba divers. They get in the water to really inspect what's going on below the waterline. And of course, you got to inspect what's above the waterline. Have questions about the lifestyle, want to learn more, my contact info is below. Feel free to call, text, email anytime. I love helping people with floating or waterfront homes. If you're not ready to take the plunge just yet, or you want to see what all my favorite restaurants and places are on Lake Union and on Lake Washington, you you gotta check out our lake guide QR code up here so you can download it. And if you want a high level overview of all the different floating home neighborhoods and you want a full tour of the lake, well, good news, we hopped on a boat last summer and we filmed just that. You can check out that video over here. If you made it this far, hit subscribe for more floating home videos. Thanks a lot for watching.